Hello, everyone. My name is Zamzam. I've been doing iOS for almost 10 years, a bit more than that. And for the last few years, I've been an engineering manager, but also doing iOS. And I'm here to tell you about how to take a POC and turn it into a real product. Something is that I actually came here back in 2019, and it was my first ever iOS conference. And it always has a special place in my heart because I got to meet a lot of interesting people, a lot of amazing talks, and it's an absolute honor to be back here and presenting to you. So in order for you to know about the product I'm going to talk about is that the company I'm at has these sport cameras, which is mostly used for recording football games or basketball or any other game, but it's not for pro clubs. It's for grassroots. And our idea is that we want to make technology accessible to everyone. With this camera, you can record, you can analyze, and you can live stream. And then there comes this idea that people have phones, and they are pretty good. So why don't we use the phones and give them the option to be able to record with that? The thing is, the cameras are not cheap, so they're expensive. And being able to use your phone for recording is actually quite cool, because you don't need to have an extra hardware. So where to start with that? And the thing is, there was done a POC in our company, so because they wanted to see if this could actually work, and the whole idea was that back when the company started in 2015, they tried to use phones, but the phones were not strong enough at that point. They were mostly 2015, the iPhones couldn't even record 4K, so just the technology wasn't there. And then now, 2025, it was, let's see, OK, can we actually use phones to record? And then when that was proven, so the POC was done, and we proved that we could actually use phones and run our AI models on top of that, then the VOGO team, which is my team, got started. We created a very focused team of multiple engineers and designers, product manager, and myself, trying to see, OK, we have this POC. How do we actually take this and turn it into an actual product? This has been our mantra for the time that we're working on this product, is that we have an idea. Let's build something small, validate that, and get learnings from it, and then build the next thing. So it's very easy to fail if you build something small. Then you go ahead and spend 2 years, and then you come and say, OK, this actually didn't work. So the very first phase that we got was internal testing. So we started this by having answered some of our key questions. So we sat down in the room, and we were like, what are the questions we want to answer? What is it that would let us know if this could actually be a product or not? And this could be very different depending on the products that you are working on. But for us, it boiled down to 3 key questions. One of them was that this product will require multiple phones. Would people actually lend their phone? Would it be OK? Is that something that people be OK to do? The second question was, it's not an easy setup, so it takes a couple of steps. Would people be willing to go through that, and would they understand? Because we didn't want to build excessive onboarding for them. We want them to be able to use the app and go through the steps and be able to see if this could actually work, and they would be able to use it. And the last question was that, does the product bring enough value for users that they would actually use this again? Or would it be like, OK, I tried it once, I don't actually like it, I don't want to use it again? So this was the main questions we wanted to answer. So we set out to answer those questions, and the goal was not to impress. We didn't want to make the most beautiful and also use the cleanest architecture and build something super maintainable. We wanted to build something small, use that to teach us. our focus areas was we want it to be simple and fast. So you kind of have to know your audience. You need to know who are you building for. For us, it was football coaches doing this a few minutes before the game start. They already have so much on their plate. They're managing their players. They're talking to the parents. There's so much going on. And they have only a few minutes to set this up. They would not usually prepare. They would come to the game and see, OK, let's do this. And there's a few minutes. If it works, it works. If it doesn't work, they're not going to spend more time on it because they can. So because of all of that, they wouldn't be able to go through an excessive onboarding. It had to be reliable because they wouldn't be patient enough and also wouldn't have the time for it to see if it could actually work if they tried it 3 times. And we focused on UX. So the very first prototype, or like the very first version of the app, we used everything Apple, like Apple components, Apple design system. It just gave us so much speed. And it did have the standard. It did have the accessibility. It did have the, it was familiar for the users. So we just chose to do that. Our tech stack, and I'm talking about the mobile part. So this product obviously had the mobile and the backend, the processing, and the AI. But here I'm going to talk about the mobile part. So it was a Swift iOS app. We used Swift UI and observation, because at that point the observation came out. And we say, OK, this probably gives us a speed, and then we use that. We used Swift data for the database, and we used multi-peer connectivity for the peer-to-peer connection, and AV Foundation for capturing, and also multi-part upload for uploading the files. So challenges. You can see that sometimes it was not very easy to debug this product. We had to do a lot of learning by doing. There were a lot of tech that we haven't used before, none of us had. So it was, and we didn't have the time to say, OK, we're going to go and learn this for 2-3 months and come and build this. We had to learn by actually building the product. And it is, as an engineer, it's always difficult to kind of say, OK, this is not how I would want to write this code. I would want to spend the time to refactor it, make it maintainable, testable, write tests for it, all of that. But we kind of had to have this in mind that this is not, we might actually throw it all out. So just build it and let's learn from it. And then we'll get the time to actually come back and rewrite this. And then there was a lot of unknowns. And it was in any part of, because it was a new product, how would this actually pan out? Like the technologies also. We also didn't control user phones, so there was a lot of things that could happen in the phones that we couldn't control. So it was like a lot of those things, and sort of being able to set milestone and just focus on that and go ahead with that. And I remember there was this moment, I think it was maybe a few months after we started the project, that we had a version that could actually, it did everything we wanted. And we went out, did a recording, and this was December in Copenhagen. It was freezing cold. And we went out on the football pitches next to the office and did a recording. And I think for me, that was a moment that I was like, OK, nice, this could actually work. I can see, because up until then, it was also an unknown for me. I was like, I don't know. This is a lot of steps, a lot of complexity, all that. But then that moment for me, at least, was like, OK, I kind of see that there is something here. So the app was super simple. We boiled it down to the absolute minimum. It would just be able to sign in and sign up. You would be able to connect your phones and start the recording. You would be able to upload. And you could view the game, like the analyzed game with all our AI, and also the highlight reel. It was generated by our AI. And you could share the game. So this was it, like nothing more. Then the internal test setup was that we contacted a close group of our users. We said we had this new product. Do you want to try it out? And we shipped equipment to them, because it's not just the phone. They need to have a tripod and a phone holder. And we use external test flight. Yeah, I'm going to talk about that. So what didn't work? The external test flight did not work. It's just, it did work, but it was for someone who is not very tech savvy, it's just a lot of steps for them to just get access to the apps, and they just got annoyed with it. So that was not a good option. There was also a lot of steps before they could actually get to the recording part. So we thought, OK, the user have to sign in and sign up to be able to use the app. And that whole thing just created a lot of steps before the game. So a lot of people just gave up because of that. And we really thought the connectivity would be the issue because of our test. The connectivity was a bit unreliable, especially with the multi-peer connectivity. Whoever has worked with it knows that when it goes to the background, then when you come to the foreground, then this whole thing is just not stable. It just doesn't work every time. It's very hard to debug and all that. But it turned out that upload was actually the main problem because the file sizes were huge. We were recording 4K, and the file sizes were something between 5 to 10 gigabytes. And people had problem uploading, and that we never saw that when we were testing it, and of course not, because we were mostly testing it in the office with a good Wi-Fi. So we didn't see that, but then every feedback that we got was like, OK, upload doesn't work, it gets stuck, it just doesn't continue, we cannot restart it. So there was a lot of things going on with the upload. And basically, every edge case that happened, like we didn't even think of it, happened. Like we had cases, it was like we never even saw that. And it was like, OK, so this is actually where we have to focus, not the connectivity, because people are having problems here. What worked was that they could figure it out. So actually, it wasn't that hard for them. They didn't even go through the, like we made I think like a 5-minute video. I think very rarely watched it. They would just take the app, use it, and be able to actually get to the recording part and get the final result. Something was, we were kind of obsessing over how difficult it would be for people to lend their phones, because it's super personal. Like your phone is very, very personal. Would you be OK to just give your phone to your coach for 2 hours, knowing that it would use the storage and the battery? And we're looking at all sort of things. How do we lock the app into, like, lock the phone to the certain app and like all that? But it turned out it wasn't actually a problem. People were OK. Like, could you lend me my phone? It was just 2 seconds. Yeah, here you go. And they didn't really care. So, and users were surprised by the quality. So they were like happy with what they got at the end. And of course, they got annoyed with some of the parts that it didn't work. The upload got issues and all that. But when they actually got to the part that they saw their video and they could actually use it to, like for their coaching sessions, they were happy with the quality and the simplicity of it. And connectivity worked. I mean, people mentioned, yeah, OK, we did have to try a few times, but it worked. And that was the case for us also. Like it wouldn't be the case that it would never work, but there was always sometimes that you have to restart the app or try to connect again. With all these learnings, so we validated the idea. We realized that the key questions are answered, and we can actually, all of those, we had some good answers for. We got the green light from our stakeholders to say, OK, go to the next phase. And the next phase was beta test. We wanted to test it in a bigger format, because the internal test was very, very limited. We wanted to test it in a little bigger scale. The focus areas here was, testing at a bigger scale, removing friction. So all of those things about starting the app and like signing up and all that, we decided to just get rid of all that. It's like we created a guest mode. So it's like, if you want to use your phone as a camera, just click here 2 buttons. You can use your phone as a camera, which helped quite a lot. We were going to validate the key questions again, because the first round was very limited. It was like, OK, let's test this with a bigger group. Would we get the same answers, or would it be different answers? And this time around, it was a lot of focus on, would people actually come back to this? How many times are they going to watch the videos? Or how many times are they going to share this? And it was a lot of kind of focus on that part as well. So the beta test setup, we ran it for 5 weeks. We said, OK, we're going to run this for 5 weeks. We released the app in the App Store so that we didn't have to deal with all that external test flight thing. And we built a help center around this. Like we put in help center articles and everything. And we built feedback journeys. So this time it was bigger group. We couldn't contact them, all of them directly. So we created a flow that they could actually give us feedback through the app. The learnings was the key insight was validated again in a bigger format. Making the setup easier helped. So whoever was part of the first test, who came to the second phase, they were so happy with how easy it was to now just use your phone as a camera, not have to go through all those steps. Customers were happy with the results, and it provided value for them. They would use the recordings over and over. And something was that we saw people are using this for recording games that wouldn't have been recorded otherwise. And that provided value for them, and we said, okay, people actually want to do this if they have the means for it. We did a lot of user visits and interviews. We went and saw them, and we got a lot of learnings, all of these things that, who are these people using this product, and how are they going to set up? Do they come prepared? How much time are they willing to spend on this? With all of those learnings, we say, okay, now we could actually go and do a launch. And we didn't want to do like a full-on global launch, but let's say we decided to go with UK launch, because for us, that market made sense. So we say, okay, now we're going to do this and an actual product launch, and it's going to be limited. The focus area in this case was continuing on simplifying. That has been an ongoing theme over and over all the time. We had to build the full integration, because when we were working on the tests, we didn't really care about, oh, this has to go into the whole ecosystem, it has to work with everything. We chose to build a lot of things separate because we wanted to have the autonomy and the freedom to go faster and try ideas. But when it was actually to turn into an actual product, we had to build it into our ecosystem. And this time around, unlike the other time, it was building for a scale. So it was like, okay, remember all those parts we said, okay, we're going to come back and refactor this. This is actually the time. We have to go back and refactor that time. We have to spend the time, maybe throw out some part of the code and try to build them again. And setting up goals. This is quite important, because if you don't have any goals, then when you do actually launch the product, you don't know if it's going good or if it's going bad, because you don't have any expectation of it. Building the beta into, changing the beta into the real product, it was a lot of, some of the challenges was we had some users already on the product. So we didn't want to sort of say, okay, we're going to pause this, say goodbye to you, and you come back in 5 months when we have the actual product. So we wanted to still keep them, give them value, but also rewrite a lot of things. So there was a lot of this managing all of these changes, especially with mobile apps, like the force update and doing massive rewrites while still keeping the lights on. We changed a lot of flows, a lot of systems, rewrote them, changed them, put them into different things. And it was a lot of testing and testing and testing, just everyone we could. I know, all of our friends, our family members, they know how to set this up now, because we asked them, could you get this phone? Could you set this up? What do you feel? How do you say? And then they were like, oh, but we never done this. I was like, so have a lot of our users. They've never used this, so it would be the same. And this is from one of my favorite movie series, The Bear. I don't know if you've seen it. It's about a high-end restaurant in Chicago. And they have this in their kitchen under the clock. Every second counts. And I think everyone felt that, because it was this constant game of prioritizing. Yes, we want to change this color here, but is that more important than fixing this critical issue over there? And everyone was doing it across, on the engineering, on the design, on the product, on the business. And everyone you could see are having this oh, do we have to spend time here, or do we have to spend time there? Which one is more important? And the challenges was, so this time it wasn't just in our little team sitting somewhere doing whatever we want. It was just working across the company, across departments, making contracts, and having those alignment and commitment, because it was saying, okay, you're going to deliver this, you're going to deliver that, we're going to deliver this, and everyone will go and build that, and assuming that when they come back, this could actually all work, the full circle should work. Yeah, managing dependencies, there was a lot of dependencies, and people building things in different parts, so just kind of making sure that all of these dependencies are thought through, planned for, and we had people working on them. Yeah, end-to-end tests, definitely. This helped us quite a lot because sometimes you have this whole thing that someone built something over there and someone built something over here, and you feel like, okay, these two parts are actually working. But you have to sort of test the full flow, like from the moment that customers actually want to get this product. Do they like putting the order, getting the product, being able to use the app, being able to use get the final result, like the whole thing. And then we got this checkpoint meeting, which is super nice because it forced us to prepare a lot of stuff. So we had to identify risks. It's like, okay, now we're launching this product. What are the risks of it, the risks that we know, and how are we doing, what are the steps that we're doing to mitigate these risks? Being super transparent and not trying to hide anything. If we know we have a problem in a part of the app, then we have a problem there. We just know what numbers it is. We can predict that if we take it to a bigger scale, what's going to happen, how are we solving it. But it's super important to be transparent, not try to hide anything. And have metrics. And how are we getting numbers to validate those metrics? Like if we have product metrics, UX metrics, business metrics, how are we getting numbers to validate those metrics? And then the sign-off. So it's a meeting with all the stakeholders, and you go through this whole document. You kind of become very transparent. Obviously, there is a suggestion from us building it. Do we think this is a good idea? Do we think we should actually launch this or not? And then there is a final sign-off on that. So we did the limited release. So this time around, we had real data. It was customers buying it like on their own, and we had a real data to actually learn from it. We focus a lot on learning, again, not trying to maximize it, because we actually had a gap on it, like how many of it people can actually purchase. And close monitoring the data, and this was all the data that we kind of set out for all of the metrics we had. And we created this hypercare phase, which was a group of our UXers try to contact our customers before they would actually contact us. So we saw that, for instance, someone has got the product, but they've never actually used it. And then we were like, OK, contact them and see if there is any product. Get feedback before they would actually get back to us. And after all that, we finally got to the global launch. And this was not that long ago, so this is just last month. And if going through the whole journey, there was a POC. We did the team creation. We did the internal tests. We did the beta tests. We did the UK launch. And then we finally got to do the global launch. If you want to remember one thing from this whole presentation, this will be it. I would suggest you to remember this one. Validate before scaling. Validation saved us from scaling the wrong solution. Feedback that we got from the customers was actually what shaped our roadmap rather than internal opinions. And each iteration that we got through taught us what to build and what not to build and where not to focus. I kind of hope that that was it and I could say goodbye and just leave the stage now, but this is not the case. So you all know that the OS 26 dropped last month, and what happened? So we had multi-peer connectivity issues, but because we had all of the global release plan, it wasn't like that it wasn't working, but it was just more flakier than it was before. And we thought, OK, it's a beta issue. You know, you always like shake it off. It's probably going to be fine when they release the actual version. But it wasn't. It wasn't true. So when they released the actual version, we still had the problems with multi-peer connectivity. It was just more evident, especially on devices. And because this product works with multiple devices and a combination of like older OS with the newer OS, it was just a headache. And then while we were looking into seeing, OK, what is the issue? Like, how do we fix this? Then we got to this learning that multi-peer connectivity is deprecated internally. And what does that even mean? So it means that in this Apple forum, there is a thread that people are writing about the multi-peer connectivity. They're having issues, how to fix them. And an Apple engineer comes and writes this. The comment was accurate at the time the documentation was originally written. But things have changed since then. Multi-peer connectivity is effectively deprecated. And both the code and documentation has decayed since it was last actively maintained. And then he is kind enough to also create a guide of how do you migrate from multi-peer connectivity to the network, what are the steps, and how you could do that. When you check the multi-peer connectivity on Apple website, go ahead, do it right away. It is like this. It is very much not mark deprecated. Like, everything looks OK. When you search what is the best framework to use for peer-to-peer connection, it's multi-peer connectivity. But there are multiple threads in Apple Forum that internal engineers, thank God that they actually told us, saved us a lot of headache trying to fix that it is internally deprecated, so you're better off using something else. So what to do in this case? It is a big part of our app. It's not just something, oh, OK, it's fine if it doesn't work. Not panic. It's a note to myself. Just like, take it easy. Try to have all the learnings, have all the info in, and yeah, just look into alternative and the alternative frameworks for the peer-to-peer connectivity. So in this case, our network, which was suggested by the Apple engineer, and the Wi-Fi Aware, which was just released in OS 26. The downside of it is that it's only for OS 26 and above. So learnings from this is that, yeah, take it more seriously when things don't work in beta. I think you've heard this a lot of times. But yeah, I think if we would have taken it more seriously back in June, then we would have more time to actually do this rewrite before it actually released on the actual version. Get help and be transparent. Again, make sure that everyone who should know knows about this. If you need more time or resources, down prioritizing, whatever else that you're doing, do that. And actually, this is super helpful. The Cloud Sonnet 4.5 is actually super good. It helped us to build a prototype within a few days. Obviously, it's not something that we're going to just ship, but it did give us a guiding. So, OK, we could actually migrate from what we have with all the functionality to this other framework. And maybe, just maybe, don't plan a global release with major OS releases if you're doing an iOS app. Yeah. So with this, yeah, go build, and thank you.
All right. Questions? Do we have any questions? Let's walk. OK. Yeah, you'll be quicker.
Thanks a lot for a very nice and structural talk. I have a question maybe from the product side. I guess you, from the beginning, built this as a commercial product. And at what point you started to think about monetization? I guess on the test side, you would like to involve as many people as possible without getting money from them.
Yeah.
But you also would like to know if they're good to using free product, or they will be in future be happy to subscribe.
Yeah, I'm very glad you asked that question. So we actually implemented the monetization into the product when we did the actual UK launch. But we were learning from our users. So that whole thing about people actually using the product, does it actually provide value for them? Do they come back and record multiple games? That gave us a hint that people are actually getting value from this. And also just talking to our customers. And there was a lot of user visits, talking to the customers and getting feedback from them. And that was the point we were like, OK, when we are doing the UK launch, there's going to be a monetization part to it, and added that to the product.
Yeah, thank you very much. And have you migrated free beta users to paid ones, or provided them?
Yeah, we gave them an offer because they helped us, and we want to keep having the beta users. So we have an offer for them. But then it's also yeah, I think the main thing is that we try to keep them happy, and because they really helped us shape this product. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you.
All right. Do we have more questions? By the way, that's a good idea. Stand up when you ask a question so that the speaker can see you. While we're waiting, if there is another question, I should mention clothes is probably awesome, but I prefer clothes. Close code is probably better. Yeah. All right. So now we'll go for a coffee, and unless there is another question, and you can ask a question anyway during the coffee break, and give her a round of applause again, please.